Well, happy Thursday. We're almost to the end of the week. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. We've got a busy day today. A couple of big stories I'm going to be knocking out. One, an update on the U.S. Census estimates for each state. Will Illinois continue to lose population? We'll do a bit of a preview on that today. But obviously, we'll unpack the latest numbers that are set to come out at about 9 o'clock our time. So be looking for that. We'll get that out for you, of course. Also, we've got the case challenging Illinois' firearm owner ID card. That's going to be heard by the 4th District Court of Appeals for Illinois. So it's Illinois State Court. But there's a challenge of a Maryland gun ID law that's in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. So we'll review some of that as well. And if there's time later on, Illinois State Police announcing a new partnership that ultimately is allowing them to have continued reach into drivers' vehicles on Illinois roads to send them notifications that there's a trooper on the side of the road. So we'll get to that at some point. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. Wake up with the headlines in your inbox. Plus, you can get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus. But wake up with us each and every weekday morning here at America's Talking Network for Illinois in Focus Daily. Illinois' firearm owner ID card is the subject of a hearing at an Illinois appellate court today. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. You can follow along at thecentersquare.com. And let's go ahead and get into this. This is the latest in the case challenging Illinois' firearm owner identification card law. The case was brought by Guns Save Life, and it was ultimately shot down in the Sangamon County District Court. All right, so this is state court. This isn't federal court. This is state court. But the case was shot down by the Sangamon County Court. The plaintiffs took it to the appeals court. The state attempted several times to try and delay it, even trying to put a stay on proceedings because the similar questions were being asked, they alleged, in other cases, but plaintiffs pushed back and said that's not the case. This is about the FOID card. It's not about anything else. They're challenging the constitutionality of it, and you could see the appeals court ultimately shot down the state's request to postpone hearings and ordered a hearing. Now, we had thought the hearing was going to happen several weeks ago, but they rescheduled it, so it's today in the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals at 1 o'clock today. All right, so 1 o'clock on December 19th, that's today. But clearly, the case has had its round and round in the courts. A previous case that Guns Save Life took up didn't advance, but this new one in the circuit court getting shot down, now going to be heard by the appeals court. And if you want to follow along this afternoon at 1 o'clock, you can see the hearing. It's going to happen on YouTube. The Illinois Appellate Court 4th District page on YouTube will have live proceedings of the oral arguments. So we'll obviously watch what happens there, take good notes, and we'll talk with John Bach from Gun Save Life after that case proceeds there. Something else, though, while this case is in state court, and previously when I talked to Bach, the case challenging the constitutionality of the gun ID law, he says he's willing to take it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But let's take a look here at some of what we have on the global national stage, right? Illinois is one of 4 states that require some form of gun ID. Illinois Massachusetts, New Jersey, Hawaii, New York also has their own scheme. Illinois, though, stands alone with Massachusetts in requiring a license to possess any sort of firearm, not even just to carry it in public. So the FOID card in Illinois, for instance, got to be 18, meeting certain criteria. It costs $10. They've got a universal FOID card that they've recently updated. Massachusetts requires anyone who buys or otherwise acquires a long gun to have a FID card. New Jersey requires anyone except a gun dealer acquiring a long gun to have a present firearm purchaser identification card. So those are just some of the different examples that there are in these types of laws across the country. So could the U.S. Supreme Court take up a case? If you go to the U.S. Supreme Court's website and you search the dockets, you'll see Maryland shall issue Inc. versus Wes Moore, governor of Maryland. In this case, it was filed in front of the U.S. Supreme Court September 27th. You had motions filed, and just on the 16th, the last bit of briefs in response were filed. So will this be put on the docket to tackle in the upcoming U.S. Supreme Court term? Again, that's Maryland's challenge of their gun ID law. And actually, one of the filings in that case actually mentions the Gun Save Life case. So again, here's the filing to the U.S. Supreme Court. Just the question being presented, whether Maryland's handgun qualification license requirement violates the Second Amendment. So that is a case that the U.S. Supreme Court could tackle. But while that's going on at the U.S. Supreme Court, you've got in state court in Illinois a challenge of the gun ID law. Whether or not that's going to, be ruled from the bench, highly doubt that. The appeals court judges will likely take it under advisement, and we could get a ruling from the appeals courts to either strike the law down or say it is constitutional. But the arguments are, after the New York State Rifle Pistol Association v. Bruin case, they say that the standards have changed, and there is no historical analog from 1791 of people having to possess an ID to exercise their Second Amendment rights. But in Illinois, is the FOID card working? Obviously, there's 2+ million FOID card holders in the state of Illinois. You have to have it in order to possess or purchase firearms or ammunition. You've got to pay the fee, get your picture taken. You can provide fingerprints if you want to speed up the process. So there's a variety of different things about the FOID card here in Illinois, but it's been challenged, especially after in 2018, 2019, there were backlogs of people getting their FOID cards renewed. And it got to the point where state police were issuing a piece of paper saying, your application is being processed. Please note that this should be good to go to a gun dealer and say, hey, he's got an updated FOID card. But gun dealers were like, whoa, this is a little troublesome. Now, they have worked through some of those backlogs, but there's a whole host of other things. The FOID card follow-ups to get guns out of the hands of people with felonies or who are prohibited persons, for instance. We've got a lot of debate about the red flag laws and whether people should have police confiscate their firearms if there's an order of protection against them without a hearing. These types of arguments continue to go on, and the FOID card in Illinois plays a role. But is it actually really being enforced? Here's a post on X from the Cook County Sheriff's Office somebody tagged me in. As part of the Sheriff's Police River North Initiative, community safety team officers arrested 19-year-old Camry Bowen following a routine traffic stop. He was found with an illegal loaded handgun affixed with a laser and an auto switch, rendering the gun fully automatic, with no FOID card and no concealed carry card, as well as suspected cannabis. Officers attempted to get charges approved for felony unlawful use of a weapon, possession by the state's attorney's office, but it was denied. Bowen was released with non-discretionary pretrial release conditions ordered by the court during his initial hearing. The public's reminded the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So, again, having the law in place, is it actually being enforced? while it's being challenged in the courts. All of these things we'll be watching closely, and be back with us tomorrow morning, and we'll break down the arguments that were heard by the appellate courts on the Illinois FOID card challenge. We'll share comments from John Bach from Gun Save Life, the plaintiffs in that state case, while we look and see what happens with that challenge to Maryland's law that could come up in the U.S. Supreme Court. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network, and get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. And don't forget, podcasts. Anywhere you get podcasts, search Illinois in Focus.
Now, I know you guys keep reporting that we're losing population based upon that inaccurate data, but you should take what I'm saying as truth, that actually when we count people, it turns out we're gaining population.
It's Governor J.B. Pritzker earlier this year being asked about continued population decline, and the governor for quite some time has denied the state of Illinois is losing population. Well, we're going to see some new numbers out later this morning to highlight every state's population estimates. Will Illinois continue year 11 of decline after a decade of decline announced last year? It's Illinois in Focus Daily. We've been watching closely what happens with the U.S. Census Bureau data, and that's expected to come out later on this morning at the Census Bureau's website. So if you want to pick apart all those numbers, you can. There's a lot going to happen, all right? Total population estimates going to be released today at around 10 o'clock. This is estimates for the nation, states, and Puerto Rico, and so on. So we'll get some of those numbers and report those out to you. But at this exact day last year, we saw a decade of decline in those numbers. So let's rewind. Decade of decline in population has Illinois legislators looking for change. December 19th, 2023, the Center Square, as reported by Greg Bishop. Illinois lost 549,000 people in the last decade. This is from last year. All right, so just to give us some context heading into the new numbers we're going to get today. Lost 549,000 people in the past decade when adding up the annual population loss. All right, so the U.S. Census Bureau numbers released last year shows that Illinois' 10th year of annual losses. In 2013, Illinois' annual population showed an increase of 12,700. The following year began that decade of decline. 2014, the state lost an estimated 10,700. In 2015, that more than doubled, 25,000 lost in 1 year. Another 37,900 in 2016. The loss continued, 41,800 in 2017. Then in 2018, 55,200 lost, 57,700 in 2019, almost 80,000 in 2020, 100,000 in 2021. So it was escalating, and then more than 107,000 in 2022. For 2023, the census said 32,800 fewer people in the year. So we've lost a congressional seat because of continued population decline. And every 10 years, we got to redraw the maps, and that's why Illinois continues to lose population. But after the 2020 census and those numbers came out, the governor acknowledged this is April of 2021. It went into the archives, and the governor here talking about how, yeah, we're losing population again, April of the year 2021.
Over a decade, we've lost population. We've got to turn that around. So I immediately set out to address that with the General Assembly, and we did. We increased significantly the amount of MAP grants that are available to people, making sure that community college students were able to get more MAP grants than they had before.
And the governor has continued that line, despite, again, the U.S. Census publicly saying Illinois lost population. This is April of 2021.
So Illinois was actually one of the 3 states that actually lost population over the last decade. And we know from our population estimates program that the state of Illinois actually had negative net domestic migration. Again, there were more people moving out of that state than moving into that.
Again, from 2021, when those numbers came out, we've had multiple annual estimates come out that showed continued decline. Here's the governor, flash forward to April of 2023, being asked about population decline.
You know, we all talked about the exodus from the state of Illinois, which I want to contend to you, some of that data was wrong. We saw they do a survey year after year called the American Community Survey, and it said that hundreds of thousands of people were leaving every year. And then we did an actual count, the census count, in 2020, and it turns out, no, we actually gained population in Illinois. So I don't trust the surveys, but I do trust the actual count of people. But one of the things that we found out in looking at all the data was that the largest contingent of people that were leaving the state back then were high school graduates who were choosing to go to college out of state.
So you again talked about how they're going to put more money into higher education, more MAP grants for qualifying students and such. But also in April of 2023, the governor was being asked questions about population decline, not just by reporters like myself and my colleagues, but by the general public. This was part of a forum, a fireside chat of sorts, where college students were asking the governor questions.
140,000 Illinoisans made the hard decision to get up and leave the state. Among the reasons cited, as you know, are high property taxes, high sales taxes, and as you mentioned, unpopular proposed income taxes, increases in income taxes. So when people like my father and my family are faced with the decision of downsizing and selling the family business or leaving the state, what do you have to say to them?
Well, let me contend that the data that you just cited is wrong.
And then he went into the conversation about the American Community Survey and the difference in numbers and the census being asked to revise numbers by state officials.
So now what am I supposed to say? Every year the Republicans, the right wing, cites the American Community Survey data. You just cited some from last year. That says that we're losing population, when the reality is that we didn't over the last 10 years, when the American Community Survey said we did.
But if you look at the census data, it does not show Illinois gaining any population. We lost a seat in Congress in the most recent census reapportionment. And the governor, flash forward again, May of this year, was asked about census data and continued showing of loss of population.
So to disabuse you and many others of a misimpression, there is, as you know, every 10 years a census that gets done. That's where people's doors get knocked on. People are filling out forms, right? And every 10 years we literally count every single person in the state. And then in every year between those 10-year periods, 2010, 2020, 2030, between those years, there's something that's relatively new in the census world called the American Community Survey, and it's more like a poll. It's more sophisticated than a poll, but it's a poll that tries to determine what the changes are year to year.
And he went on from there to talk about the difference and how they believe that they're getting it wrong, and they've asked the U.S. Census to revise those numbers, more of the governor in May of this year.
So we've gone to the Census Bureau and told them how inaccurate this clearly is. And they believed us, and they went around and looked at the cities in the state that applied. We had a group of cities who kind of went to the Census Bureau and said, this is wrong, we're seeing more people than you are. And what did they do? They upped the numbers, the population numbers for each of those cities that were part of that application. So it's clear there's something wrong with the ACS data, and I know you guys keep reporting that we're losing population based upon that inaccurate data, but you should take what I'm saying as truth, that actually when we count people, it turns out we're gaining population.
But it's not just the census data, right? We focused a lot on the census data here, but it's also IRS migration data that comes out during the summer months that shows Illinois continues to have people move out of the state. The most recent IRS migration data showed $10 billion of income leaving the state of Illinois, with tens of thousands of people leaving the state of Illinois. It's also the private sector, United Van Lines, U-Haul, putting out reports each year showing Illinois among the states where people are leaving the state of Illinois. So it's not just the census data, but again, regardless, anytime somebody says in a public format that the state's losing population, the governor or somebody in his office, like the deputy governor, Andy Manar, pushes back. This is from, I believe, last month with a pension conversation with the Better Government Association and Deputy Governor Andy Manar saying, no, we're not losing population.
Oh, okay. So I want to.
Sorry, I've been
I haven't
reading
jumped
too
in
many
yet on anything
IPI
here, but
editorials.
If you census, the census is the census. There's a thing called the post-enumeration survey that shows that Illinois gained population. It's a correction.
Okay, right.
And it's a real correction from the Census Bureau. So I just want to dispel that right away. Illinois is not losing people. Illinois is gaining people.
So are we? We'll find out today. Annual estimates of state population shifts coming out from the U.S. Census Bureau. Wake up with us tomorrow. We'll give you the latest here with Illinois in Focus Daily, or you can beat everybody and get the headline when it comes out at thecentersquare.com. It's Illinois in Focus Daily, live with you each and every weekday morning here with America's Talking Network. Illinois State Police extending their reach into drivers' vehicles to give notifications that troopers may be on the side of the road. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and Illinois State Police yesterday announcing a new partnership with Haas Alert to have Illinois State Police data, if they're on the side of the road, sent to GPS coordinates, so people having, the infotainment centers on their vehicles will be able to get a notification that they need to pull over and slow down. This is the latest in what apparently is now a series of announcements of state police being among the first states to do this, to coordinate with technology companies to share data. And I think this is rather important when you really think about public safety, because we've had two state troopers die since 2019, and 60 or so that have been hit following individual motorists not slowing down or moving over when they see a trooper on the side of the road or any emergency vehicles on the side of the road. And it's a problem that state police want to try to alleviate. Now, a couple of months ago, state police joined with officials to discuss a collaboration between the state police, Google, and Waze to have state police send GPS data through Google and Waze. People using those on their phones, plugged into their, updated infotainment centers, Android Auto, Apple iPlay. Is that what I don't know what that? I'm not an Apple guy, so. But if you couldn't tell, I've got Windows machines all over the place up in here. But the data gets sent to these, handheld devices, people using their vehicles, and it sends alerts. Well, now you've got a new addition from Haas Alert, which has a safety cloud that state police are now going to be sending. We'll hear about that, but let's rewind back to October with State Police Director Brendan Kelly and others talking about this collaboration and the importance of it.
I've been to way too many hospitals across the state, stood by way too many hospital beds, and cried and prayed with way too many families, and spoke at way too many funerals, in part because of life-altering and sometimes deadly crashes that violated the Move Over law. We hope every single app that has the ability to provide this type of notification, we hope that is the trend. But we have to start somewhere, and we had a good, malleable and cooperative partner with the Waze app and with Google. So we began with Waze. The platform and the structure was there to do that. We're moving on very shortly to Google Maps. That's what's next, and that should be coming here shortly. We're excited about that. And then we really hope this becomes the standard. This should be the way it's done on every app that people are using when they're driving. And this is something that we hope is not just used in the state of Illinois, but is something that can happen across the entire country.
And he went on with more about that particular program. So that was a couple of months ago. Yesterday in Springfield, State Police held a news conference conference with Haas Alert, where Corey Haas, the CEO, talked about what's the next step in this. Now it's no longer on your cell phone plugged into your car. It's going to be specific vehicles that are going to get these updates.
Vehicles by manufacturers: Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Chrysler, most recently Volkswagen, and Mercedes-Benz. And there's no cost, which is most important to the driver. All of a sudden, these alerts just start showing up, and they have them without having to do anything to the vehicle. The alert is delivered about as close to 28 seconds before they're going to come in contact with that incident scene. The reason that number is important is because the research shows that's enough time for drivers to safely look around, slow down, turn the music down, and move over a lane.
And then they had Trooper Alex Womack there, who in 2019 was the victim of a crash that was from somebody not moving over and slowing down. And he said that he still has injuries, that he's recovering from that, though he's back full duty now. And again, the number of state police that have been killed, 2 since 2019, 60 injured in similar types of crashes. And Womack said that it's important people realize how crucial it is they move over and slow down.
By giving advanced warnings that a trooper is on the side of the road ahead, drivers will have more time to move over, especially in heavy traffic. I can tell you that every trooper appreciates when motorists slow down, move over, and give them space to do their job.
Clearly, an important issue, one that I don't think is going to go away, especially if you get more inclement weather and state police are more on the side of the roads helping motorists assist and whatnot. You could see a few news stories about this. But an example of what you'll see, all right? So again, this is on Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Mercedes-Benz, and it gives you an alert not through Android Auto, but through your vehicle's infotainment center. It will actually flash and say emergency vehicle ahead. Who knows how this type of technology is working elsewhere, right? I mean, you got to think about each of these new vehicles, which, by the way, is 2018 and up for the most recent update on vehicles: Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Mercedes-Benz, and so on. I imagine it might expand elsewhere, right? Ford, could that be soon? Some of the other, Hyundai, could that be coming with their infotainment centers? But yesterday's announcement, just for the vehicles, not for the apps. We'll see where this goes from here. But the technology, some people could be freaked out by it. Civil libertarians maybe, seeing this and raising a spider sense of sorts, which can happen. And obviously, people are concerned about their privacy. I know some people who don't want any technology in their vehicles for these specific reasons of just a plethora of spying devices, which, I mean, let's just frankly say it, that what's on people's minds is, this type of technology just can more and more create this surveillance grid. That on top of license plate reading cameras all over the state. We're in a different world, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't your granddad's America. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning for the very latest. Get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. And don't forget to find the podcast if you can't make the live show. It's right here with America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus. All right, so all I got for you today. We'll be back tomorrow, wrap up the week. We'll have to connect with the Center Square's Jim Talamonte to get the latest in the Madigan trial, which, by the way, we're like in week 11, going into week 12. They'll be off all next week, but the defense has started. Mike McLean's defense getting up first. We'll hear all about it tomorrow with Jim Talamonte. He's in court right now. He'll be there until, well, I did just get a video that he sent in. He sends videos of Madigan and McLean walking in. And if you haven't seen those videos, Jim asked recently what Madigan's holiday plans are. He just said, have a good day. Mike McLean said he's going home. because they're off all next week. And I don't think the jury's going to come back until like the second after today. So either way, we'll get an update on that. We'll also talk about the census numbers. We'll talk about the FOID card challenge. And we'll start unpacking some of the nearly 300 laws that go into effect January 1st. So be with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Enjoy your Thursday.